Hello everyone and welcome to another collections showcase, and today we have another interesting prototype piece, but it's not just a prototype figure, it's a prototype box as well, because this is the Recon Dalek from Resolution, or Resolution of Daleks, depending on which way you want to name it. I prefer the latter. But yes, so here we have the Recon Dalek. On the left, obviously, we have the prototype version. On the right, we have the release version. There's a very good reason why I brought the release version in for this comparison, because there's quite a few differences, not on the figure, but on the box that's interesting about this. So on the figure in the prototype one is just an unpainted pre-production prototype. I'm going to call it a prototype. You can call this pre-production, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it a prototype for the sake of ease. The figure itself is just an unpainted version. There's nothing, as far as I can see, that is special about the figure. Obviously it has the mutant as well. Mutant isn't fixed in the box, hence why it's lying down, but there's again another good reason for that. So yeah, in terms of the figure, there's not a huge amount to say, but as I said, it's the box where things get interesting, because I'm hoping I can capture most of this on camera, but it's difficult because you've got transparent plastic on transparent plastic, which is difficult to capture on camera. But the first thing is the colouring of the blue on the prototype version is much more sort of mauve-ish purple blue rather than the dark navy blue that is on the release version. And then on the box, the overall outer shell of the box is normal, but the inside packaging is quite a lot different, because on the release version the plastic is molded so it comes all the way around the edge here, and then it's got a bit under here which comes underneath the plunger and the gun, and obviously the mutant is set into a recess at the back. On this prototype version, the plastic insert only comes forward to here. There's nothing here or here as there is on the release version, and there is nothing underneath the gun and plunger arm. And also the mutant Dalek, as I said, is not fixed into the back of the box. But the interesting thing is here is the markings on it actually go into detail. So it says mutant, legs will straight, or legs will be straight. And the reason for this is, as you can see in the release version, the mutant legs are pointing downwards. In this version, when it's laid back into the box, the legs point towards the Dalek. So the plastic insert in this box is actually a pre-production version, which certainly adds to the interesting side of it. And also the other thing as well is, in this version the eye stalk is straight, it's not set into the back of the box. In this one, the prototype version, the eye stalk points upwards, and there is actually a recess in the plastic insert where it would sit into it as well, so that's been made slightly different. But it's the back of the box where the most interesting, or at least I think the most interesting part of this prototype piece lies. Because if I turn around the released version first of all, as you can see, or as you will know, on the back of here we have obviously the Jadoon, we have Graham, we have the Recon Dalek, we have the blue shirted 13th Doctor, I'll come back to that in a minute, we have the red shirted 13th Doctor, TARDIS and Sonic Screwdriver. And those who watched my review or reviews of these ones initially will remember that I didn't show the back of the boxes, and I'm pretty sure I revealed this in a later one. I think actually I revealed it in the review I did of the blue shirted 13th Doctor. The reason that I was told not to show the back of the box is because the blue shirted 13th Doctor is not supposed to be on here. You know, she hadn't been revealed at that point and they wanted to keep it a secret, so I was asked not to show the back of the box. However, if I turn around the prototype one, the first thing you may notice, or one of the first things you may notice, is we have the red shirted version but no blue shirted version. We then also have this marking, wrong A/W, crossed out, which I would assume, and I think I'm right in saying this, means wrong artwork. Now that brings an interesting question in: if this is the wrong artwork, why do we know this was the wrong artwork? And you know, I'm sure that this wasn't the only pre-production version produced. I'm sure there are other ones out there. But I have to say, it would be really, really interesting if this is the one, this particular version I have here in front of me, somebody sent this back and said, oh no, that's the wrong artwork, and it caused this mistake. yeah, it's interesting. You've sort of got two contradicting things here. But as I said, you know, I was specifically asked by Aljur himself not to reveal the back of this box, so I take, you know, I take his word as truth. And yet here I've got something saying that this is wrong, where as far as I was concerned, this was supposed to be right. So, like I said, is maybe this wrong artwork is actually the mistake that led to this. It's certainly interesting. But other than that, the artwork on the back is almost all the same. Obviously, there's no blue-shirted 13th Doctor. There is the red-shirted version. But also on this, the pictures on the back of this one, again, it's difficult to capture on camera. They're slightly lower definition than they are in here, but they've also got this sort of white outer glow around them as well, which is interesting, sort of aesthetic change to it that they haven't put it on the release version. But I will say, the nice thing about looking at the back of this, and I'm going to waffle a little bit here or go off on a tangent, is this, sitting here looking at these, it does give you an appreciation of what goes in to the artwork and how even just the simplest things, like the wrong figures being in there, must add to production time, having to go back and change it. Because I think a lot of us, people who do Photoshop and things like that, it can be difficult to get things right. But I think from our perspective, it's a case of we go back, it's something's not right in Photoshop, go in, click, change it, job done. But for character options and people that produce these figures, it is a case of they have to do this artwork, save it, print it off. Then it's got to be printed on this card. It's got to have this sort of slight laminate finish to it. It's then got to be done. It's then got to be sent off to somebody. Somebody's got to inspect it, correct it if it needs it, send it back. It's then got to be changed, and it really does sort of put into perspective how much work must go into these boxes. And I think. I know that we've recently had to say goodbye to the custom inserts for the History of the Dalek sets, which is a shame. But as I said in those reviews, they were something of a luxury. But even just the little things like having the information on the back of the boxes for the B&M sets, it really does sort of put into perspective how something simple like that how many process stages that must have to go through, to make sure that it's up to scratch. And even then, things will slip through, such as the 13th Doctor blue shirt being on there. It does happen, but I really do just want to raise this point of saying that it really does put into perspective how much work must go into these, and I think to an extent, and I count myself in this, I want to make this absolutely clear, how much us fans do take what we get on these boxes for granted. We're interested in the figures inside them, but the boxes themselves really do get a lot of work put into them, and I don't think that gets recognised enough. But that brings to a close, I will turn them back around again, that brings to a close another collections showcase. As always, I hope you'll enjoy this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot, and be sure to the description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm doing my very first figure animation and you can get involved. There's exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.